Starbucks was founded by Jerry Baldwin, Gordon Boker, and Zave Segal, opening its first store in 1971 near the historic Pike Place Market in Seattle. The three Starbucks founders had two things in common: they were all coming from academia, and they all loved coffee and tea. They invested and borrowed some money to open the first store in Seattle and named it Starbucks, after the first mate, Starbuck, in Herman Melville's classic novel Moby Dick. Alfred Peet, a coffee roasting entrepreneur, was a major inspiration to the founders of Starbucks. Peet was a Dutch immigrant who had begun importing fine Arabica coffees into the United States during the 1950s. In 1966 he opened a small store, Peet's Coffee and Tea, in Berkeley, California, that specialized in importing first-rate coffees and teas. Peet's success encouraged the Starbucks founders to base their business model on selling high-quality coffee beans and equipment, and Peet's became the initial supplier of green coffee beans to Starbucks. The partners then purchased a used roaster from Holland, and Baldwin and Boker experimented with Alfred Peet's roasting techniques to create their own blends and flavors. By the early 1980s, Starbucks had opened 4 stores in Seattle that stood out from the competitors with their top-quality fresh roasted coffees. In 1980, Segal decided to pursue other interests and left the two remaining partners, with Baldwin assuming the role of company president. The Howard Schultz era. Howard Schultz. In 1981, Howard Schultz, a sales representative for Hamaplast, a Swedish company that made kitchen equipment and housewares from which Starbucks bought drip coffee makers, noticed how large the company's orders were, which prompted him to pay it a visit. Schultz was so impressed that he decided to pursue a career at Starbucks, and he was hired as the head of marketing in 1982. Schultz noticed that first-time customers sometimes felt uneasy in the stores because of their lack of knowledge about fine coffees, so he worked with store employees on developing customer-friendly sales skills and produced brochures that made it easy for customers to learn about the company's products. Schultz's biggest idea for the future of Starbucks came during the spring of 1983 when the company sent him to Milan to attend an international housewares show. While in Italy, he was impressed with the country's cafes and discovered that Milan alone boasted 1,500 coffeehouses. Inspired, he thought of doing something similar in Starbucks and envisioned turning a tiny regional operation into a national coffeehouse chain via rapid store expansion. However, Baldwin and Boker were not enthusiastic about Schultz's idea, as they did not want Starbucks to deviate much from its traditional model of business. They wanted Starbucks to remain strictly a coffee and equipment seller and not turn into a cafe that served espressos and cappuccinos.